So let's delve in to the land of the Legion. What is it like behind the veil that is this giant autocracy, this military, this wave? Well, let's start off with defining the difference between the certain aspects of the Legion. So the Legion proper is the military. This is what we see in New Vegas. This is largely what we could consider the Legion is as a whole. The Legion really isn't this multifaceted country, organization, or faction, if you will. When we think of places like, take America, for example. When you think of America, you don't just go like, oh, the military, right? That's what America is. That's the people who shoot stuff. Like, that's not... America is this kind of whole working thing, like most countries today are. You look at the citizens, the government. The military is also an aspect of this, and then the different portions of the military. The Legion is not that. The Legion proper is the slaver Legion army. The Legion proper is a non-civilian military. The military is comprised of mostly reconditioned tribals that hold lands in Arizona and New Mexico, and also small portions of Utah and Colorado. And their ideology is designed to prioritize the state. It's utilitarian. They want to make everything about the Legion better, but they're not focused about the individual. The individual is meaningless. It is stripped down to the most efficient and effective portions that a person can provide to the state. Caesar despises democracy. He sees it as disunity, greed, and self-interest at the expense of the collective greater good. Now, just as a bit of a side tangent, a lot of the times we look at how our world works and we think that, being an individual and working towards your own self-interest is really important. But the thing, I think, where Caesar's coming from is we're looking at history in a point of complete disrepair. Everything is broken, everything is destroyed. And the thing is, people in the wasteland, in the Fallout universe, for the most part, the average person, they're not looking to advance. They're not looking to bolster technology and do new things. They're just trying to survive. So we need to look at the perspective of where things are in the current state of this world. We like to look at our world and come from that perspective and think, no, this is terrible. The individual is important. Their progress is important. Being progressive is important. We need to do new things, move on with the world. But that may not be the best thing for the wasteland. The wasteland is not in a point where people are trying to progress in sciences and medicines and things like that. We're the only reason we even have those things existing in this world is because they existed in the world before the bombs fell, and people use what's left. But people are at a point where they're just trying to not get eaten by a deathclaw or killed by a gang of raiders. They're just trying to survive. So where the Legion is coming from is they want to dispense that self-interest and work towards the greater good and bringing everyone together in a sort of way. And that sounds like a very twisted, weird thing because they are slavers and they do terrible things. But there are many videos, and even I made one trying to create that perspective that is important to look at, because New Vegas is not as black and white as many people kind of take it as, because the Legion are portrayed as a bad guy, and we look at what they think of and we're like, no, that's not how we think. But there is an argument for it. Now, like we've stated, the Legion is a military. They are an autocracy, the Legion proper being, and they are focused on taking over the NCR, which controls the majority of California. That is their sole focus. The Legion exists primarily to do as we've stated before, but the military operation right now is to take over the NCR. So we see this beginning at the start of the Battle of Hoover Dam, which if Bethesda or whoever makes the next game in this region, this is we merely play the beginning of this battle. I think that there's a lot to play off of here, because this is all-out war. They want to take over the NCR. And the NCR wants to destroy them, obviously, because if an army wants to take you over, they cannot exist anymore in your world. So that's the military. Now we can move on to the other part of the Legion. So the other part of the Legion is almost not even a part of the Legion in reality, and how the Legion looks at things. Those who live in Legion territory, and primarily one of the things that I went into this video trying to focus on and understand was there's the Legion proper, as we've just discussed, which is the military. And then there are subjects of the Legion. And these are people who live in these territories that we've discussed in portions of Utah and Colorado, and then largely in New Mexico and Arizona. This is your citizen for a large part, but they're not necessarily a citizen of the Legion. They are a subject. They exist within their lands, but they're not slaves. Slaves are a portion of the Legion proper, believe it or not. They really are. They're a part of that autocracy. They're a huge part of it in reality, and the Legion recognizes that. Now, the subjects of the Legion are free people. They aren't slaves, like I've stated. They have freedom as long as they do not interfere with the Legion. The Legion lands are considered quite safe. Arizona used to be in complete terror. It used to be a lawless, brutal area of the wastes. Seems to be described worse than most places we've even been. I might try to relate to the lawlessness and the sort of just complete terror as like a Bethesda Fallout game. That's not a slight on them, but if you just look at Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, it's kind of like everything has just gone to shit and you just are constantly fighting as you walk around. Maybe that's what Arizona was like. But due to Legion brutality, they've eliminated the raiders, they've eliminated the bad ongoings, and it's now a peaceful land with safe trade routes. They also have light taxes, really solid for traders as long as you don't sell drugs or alcohol. But this is a showcase of what this kind of brutality and this wiping away of the individual can lead to. Is we have these safe open areas where the subjects and the I guess the quote-unquote citizens get to live in freedom for the most part. So to take a closer look into that, what sort of happens is, let's just take the New Vegas area for example, and we'll compare it to what happened with Arizona and New Mexico and these areas that the Legion now controls. If we take a look at New Vegas, had the Legion won the War of Hoover Dam, the Battle of Hoover Dam, and taken over the New Vegas area, then you'd have places like Novac and Good Springs and all these areas just continuing to exist. Now we look at places like Nipton and see what that is, and that's more of like a fear tactic and a push and a slight towards the NCR, and not necessarily representative of what the Legion does when they take over an area, because the Legion didn't necessarily take that place over. We look at places like that and Nelson, but that is a slight against the NCR and territory that they're currently occupying. The Legion merely comes over an area and takes it over, but they aren't building new towns. They're a military. They will set up military camps, but they aren't going to set up a place like Novac. They aren't setting up places for citizens. Citizens merely get to continue to exist within the now much safer Legion borders. That's really the way to look at this. The Legion doesn't come in like the NCR, set up new towns, build new economies, set up bureaucracy and things like that. The Legion does have minor implementations of things like that to kind of oversee and control things a bit more, but not to the extent that we see with the NCR. Now to delve a bit more back into the Legion proper, we look at the roles of men and women being divided. Men are fighters, and they are divided through strict hierarchy. They have their roles. There are the bottom of the bottom and the top of the top, which is Caesar, and women may not fight. They are divided into roles such as healers, caretakers, and breeders. Now, this seems harsh and sexist, and this kind of goes back into what I was discussing earlier. However, we have to look at this objectively and from the standpoint that the Legion is to understand why this is being done. It's not necessarily a sexist, misogynistic thing. If women are dying in combat, it would lessen the chances of children being born and complicate the simple and efficient scheme. That is the point of this. The Legion is not looking at things like they hate women, they love men, they hate ghouls, they love humans. Like that's not how the Legion operates. The Legion is structured to be the most effective piece of military that it can be. That is all it is there for. They aren't looking to appease the people. They aren't looking to keep morales up. That's not the point of it. They wipe away the individual and they create the most effective scheme that they possibly can. And if women are dying in combat, that means they aren't giving birth to children, which bolsters the amount of military men that they have to fight and the amount of women that are caretaking and going on to breed later. Now we can go in and look at the men's roles. Now the men have to climb among the ranks in the hierarchy to get to the higher positions, Legionnaire, Centurion. We know these things from New Vegas. But the thing about these ranks is that they don't become more important to the Legion by increasing rank. They are simply given better equipment and now have to complete more difficult tasks, and the higher in rank you are, the less tolerance you are given to failure. We can see this with Joshua Graham being one of the founders of the Legion, the right-hand man of Caesar. He failed at the Hoover Dam and was attempted to be killed instantly. There is no room for failure at all within the Legion. So just because you're a guy and you're climbing the ranks of this hierarchy and raising your importance, the Legion doesn't care. You are merely alive and effective, or you fail and you die, and that is it. Even the slaves in all of this have their role, of course, and their importance to the Legion, and they follow a scheme with 3 principles, being honesty, industry, and prudence. They wear rags as we see them with the light red X on the front, and they wear slave collars at first until they've been broken and just conformed into the Legion entirely. Then the slave collars are removed, they're no longer needed. On top of this, the Legion speaks portions of Latin with certain words in English for the most part. As we see, they don't speak entirely Latin like the Roman Empire would have been. They use certain words like awe and amicus, and they call Caesar Caesar as you would have with the Latin form of the word. However, for the most part, we hear them speaking English. And then in terms of currency, we see the denarius and the aureus, denarius being scrapped silver formed into this Legion coin, and the aureus being scrapped gold formed into this Legion coin, both presenting Caesar's face on it. And merchants within NCR territory and New Vegas still accept this currency, not because they like the Legion. The Legion is actually quite hostile, and there aren't good relations with the Legion. The Legion doesn't have good relations with factions outside of it because it is so focused on the Legion as itself, not other aspects of the Wasteland, which is a bit of hypocrisy there, right? When we look at the Legion's morals, they want to wipe away the individual and work towards the greater good, but when we see them start to interact with other factions and portions of the Wasteland, it's their way or the highway. That's how things flow. But these other organizations do accept their currency because of the simple value of the currency. When we look at NCR, they use paper money like our modern day money, which has no real attainable value. It is merely based on a faith system, right? But the Legion currency is actual silver and gold, which has value in the real world. So that's the information on the land of the Legion, what it's like behind the military and within the military for many parts, what it's like living and existing within that. There's so much information on this faction. It's often that when I'm looking up information for these lore videos, I have to scrap together every little piece and also sort of hypothesize upon parts of the lore and what's going on. But with this one, there's just so much going on. There's so much about the Legion. We could cover multiple videos following them. There's just plenty. So we're good there. So let me know, what do you guys think of the Legion? What is your opinion on how they run things? Do you completely disagree with it? Do you think we should focus more towards the NCR style of thing? I think that's the best one to compare them to because those are the two that butt heads all the time. And what other factions would you like me to delve into behind the scenes? I think the Legion is really the only one we can look at. Maybe what the East Coast Brotherhood of Steel land is like now back in the Capital Wasteland, because we don't actually get to see that area, which now seems to be controlled by them. But we have seen NCR land aplenty, and there aren't many factions that we know of that control mass amounts of territory, and we don't get to see what's behind the scenes. But either way, thank you for watching, and goodbye.